Ladies and gents, this is the moment you've waited for.
This is the greatest show!
And now, here's your host, Clint Arthur.
All right, everybody, this is Clint Arthur, and welcome to the greatest show of all time, right here on 77 WABC Radio in New York City. And if you are an author, speaker, coach, entrepreneur, an expert, advisor, consultant, anybody who wants to be more, do more, and have more impact, influence, and income specifically, then this should be your home away from home. Tonight on the show, I have Fox News medical correspondent Dr. Marc Siegel, part 2 of his in-depth interview we did at CNN Center in Atlanta.
It's a tremendous skill to be able to translate medical information into layman terms. You have to do it without sacrificing the scientific reality. That's the challenge. You cannot say, well, it's the layman, let me say this in a simplistic way that the laymen understand. Laymen are a lot smarter these days than they used to be. Do not sacrifice the science. And here's another thing, and I teach this to all my radio hosts on Dr. Radio. Watch out for, and this may be he's winding me up, this may be the most important thing I say. It's not just stop words. Watch out for slow down words. In other words, you look for equivalent words that are more dynamic than the medical boring words. Don't say the word data 100 times. People know the word data, but boy is it boring. Or double-blinded, placebo-controlled, randomized trials. First of all, people don't know what that is. But even if they did, they turn the channel when they hear that. So look for words that don't show how smart you are. Look for words that communicate how much you care, like the Surgeon General says. Do it without sacrificing the scientific integrity, but don't make it about those words. Watch out for them. And add to your vocabulary the word slow down words, not just stop words. I mean, everybody knows, probably most of you know more about stop words, but I mean slow down words. Data is a slow down word. It's boring. You know, study. Watch out how many times you say the word study. You can say it once. Don't say it more than once if you're on TV. Now, here's another thing. Television is a 4-minute universe. Everybody comes off there saying, I didn't get to say a thing. So then don't waste time warming up. You know, hi Clint, great to see you today. How you doing?
Thanks for coming on the show. Oh,
great to be here.
Yeah.
Did you have breakfast? What did you have? You know, remember who you are and why they're calling you, okay? They're calling you to get right into it.
What's your advice when the host is such an idiot that they're like, hey, thanks so much for coming on the show? What's your advice? What's the response that you would advise? Because they all do that.
Well, first of all, there's a technical question in there. Right now we're in the pandemic, so everything has a second delay. So when you're in the studio, I would say, when you're in the studio, you say, great to be here, blah, 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 and you hit with your first term, because most of the hosts are most of them are nice people. So you can direct them in your first answer. The reason I hesitated is right now, the way it is with a second delay, and this is very technical. If you're on TV and someone says, good morning, Dr. Siegel, I have to say, good morning. Because if I start launching from there, they may interrupt me.
Yep.
And that's but do not let them deteriorate it into pleasantries is your answer. Have your first answer ready. You may think you're there as a recipient, as a guest, but you have a vantage point. You have a vantage point. Like, for example, I decided that it's important that today is 75-year anniversary of Nagasaki. So there's no way if I were on TV today instead of here that wouldn't be my first answer. I say that right out of the chute. Or I'd say it, I know I'm going to say it at the end. Goodbye, Dr. Siegel, thanks for joining us. And I'd say, and let's remember, today is 75th anniversary of Nagasaki. Everyone has strong feelings about that, but now we're on a new Manhattan project. It's called Operation Warp Speed. That's a guest appearance. You know, again, as a reporter, I already told you, I try to ask questions that provoke answers, not to show off how smart I am. Do not let people write your words. Write your own words. You can prepare all you want. It's not about bullet points, by the way. It's about finding an angle that no one else has. Somebody said to me last night, I'll give you an example. Somebody said to me last night, watch out. the president is releasing among his new statements, he's going to make sure that pre-existing conditions are covered, he says. And the whole left-wing media is making fun of him because they think he doesn't know what's already in Obamacare. So they said to me, if you're asked about this is a bunch of my producer friends, what are you going to say? What are you going to say? I want all of you to be ready for that. Don't get on TV and say the obvious. You know, think about why he might be doing that. And the answer is, by the way, of course, I have a direct pipeline into HHS Secretary Azar, so I already sent a text to him. I want to know his view of this. That's another thing. Here's a piece of gold. Get sourcing. Even if you don't say it on TV, get sourcing. Don't be smarter than the next person. If you're a radiologist and it's a cancer issue, call up your oncology friend. Have a slew of people that you trust that can give you vantage points, whether you quote them or not. I quote them all the time. I say, our top oncologist at NYU, blah, blah, blah. I don't have to be the one that takes a bow. So have secret sources. With the issue of pre-existing conditions, by the way, since I wrote about Obamacare for years, I figured out that what they're really trying to do, and I didn't get a call back from Azar yet because he's in Taiwan, and Azar, instead of calling me, sent me a photo of getting off the plane.
Yep.
But I'll hear his view. But what he's going to say is that they're trying to dismantle Obamacare again. And so they want to at least protect pre-existing conditions so that if they succeed in dismantling the law, that'll be in place and everyone will say that's reassuring, at least that's in place, because they know that the polling says that that's popular. Pre-existing conditions need to be covered. Now, the other thing you might want to do if you were talking about the Affordable Care Act is figure out how many states already have mandates to cover pre-existing conditions. It's most of them. It's most of them. So again, that's how you get away. I want all of you to get away from what the usual gotcha talking point is. Everything deteriorates into a political discussion. Oh, he's stupid. He doesn't know that pre-existing conditions are already covered. Oh, he's trying to destroy the healthcare system. Oh, get into the real facts. How many states cover pre-existing conditions? You know, what do they have in mind to replace it with? What does the HHS secretary say? You know, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, what's going on with her? What cancers could she have? Call up your top pancreas cancer oncology friend and say, what cancer could this be? You know, it kills everybody. Or how come, poor Alex Trebek, how come he was saying that we knew better? But
okay. They always talk about how when you want to get on a show, you have to have a news peg. Okay? Could you talk about a little bit about the way you look for news pegs and what you want to talk about?
There isn't a topic that I don't feel comfortable talking about, which is one of the reasons I'm here. And I would say, given the time we're talking about now, with an election coming up, do not be afraid of political stories. But if you're doing political stories, because that's what they want, they're hot on it. But find an angle that's medical on it. My angle on Vice President Biden is that he had the aneurysms clipped in 1988, and he had them done 2 years before they started using endovascular techniques. And I found the research that shows that, and this is a very important point I'm about to make. This is really important. I found the research that shows, first of all, he had a subarachnoid hemorrhage. Secondly, he had 2 aneurysms clipped, but he didn't have them clipped the way we do it now with glue and with coils. He had it done open surgically. And I found out that there's a 50% incidence in 2 major studies of long-term cognitive problems with that. I do not go on TV, though, and say, I believe he may have cognitive problems. I will never say that because I'm looking at him through a video screen. And it's much better for me to say, here are some things that someone in his position could have. You know, let's talk about the Swiss atrial fibrillation study from 2019. Notice I said the word study. I'm only going to say it once, right? See, you say it once. Watch out for the viewers. Swiss atrial fibrillation. What is atrial fibrillation? Define your terms. Don't assume everybody knows what atrial fibrillation is. They may say, oh, that person's smart, but I'm turning the channel. So look for medical angles on political stories and look to tell them in ways that are medical. Don't compromise your integrity. Don't be afraid of those stories. Also, don't step completely outside your skin unless, well, I already gave you a clue on how not to do that. If they call me on dermatology stories, I'm calling a dermatologist. You know, I'm reading all the literature. Another thing, please, all of you, stick to primary sources. Don't get in the habit of reading Time Magazine only or the Washington Post only or even the Wall Street Journal, which is my favorite. Don't read those only because that's what everybody else is doing. Go to the papers. Go to the papers. That's what we were trained to do. Go to the papers, and then you'll seem smarter and you'll seem more authentic.
Fantastic. Have you ever been hacked?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about getting hacked.
Well, no, that's incredibly difficult. You have to get real, on Twitter. You have to have that real signature on there, and I get hacked all the time. What ends up happening is I have our social media people fixing it. Beware of social media. This isn't the question Clint asked, but please beware of social media. Social media is not where you want to fight your wars. Don't get a thin skin, because people will say all kinds of things. They call me a Nazi on social media, and I'm a Jew. I mean, seriously. It's so easy to get offended by emails, but stick to the science, and then people right now are crazy. They're crazy. The pandemic has made people crazy. They're angry, and they're doing everything that I'm telling you not to do. They're jumping to conclusions. They think they know people they've never met. They know the science. And we were going to talk about hydroxychloroquine. Let me give you an example. That's a really good example. Raise your hand if you're interested in that topic. Okay, so let me get some water, and I'll tell you all about it.
Yeah, there's a bottle there that Dolce Conde was kind enough to put for you.
So hydroxychloroquine, let me give you an idea what a mess that is. Back in March, I had on Dr. Radio our top rheumatologist, our top lupus expert, probably the top in the world. And he says to me, I think hydroxychloroquine has effect against COVID-19, against SARS-CoV-2 virus, and also it decreases the inflammatory cascade. This guy's never been wrong in my entire career. He's one of my first professors, and I pay a lot of attention to him. I said, how do you know that? He said, because there's a study coming out of China that shows that, but I'm going to study it too. That didn't mean that I should be giving it to everybody, but it meant that I took it really seriously after that. But notice, and this has to do with how you message too. Keep in mind the dates and what your target is. Why would you want to use hydroxychloroquine for people that are on ventilators that are on death's door? There's no reason to think it would work then. I'm suspicious. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I don't understand why millions of dollars have been wasted studying this drug for people on ventilators and people that are on death's door. Also, why are we now coming out 60 years later and saying that hydroxychloroquine can cause cardiac arrhythmias when we've known that for 60 years? So all of this background, oh, thank you. I hope CNN didn't get, oh, no, I'm kidding here. All of this background on hydroxychloroquine is a waste, and it became politicized, completely politicized. And the president saying that he took it is just him being who he is. He shoots from the hip, he's honest. It's like they trap him in his words, and somehow because the president said he's in favor of it or he took it, it means no one else should or everyone else wants it, and then for some reason Fauci comes out and says it hasn't been studied, and then the next thing you know, it's a war between retrospective studies and prospective double-blinded, again, placebo-controlled trials, and then they win because they have two placebo-controlled double-blinded trials, and I find out afterwards, get this, one of them, and this is showing you guys that even I can be fooled, right? Watch this. This is me, I guess my 10th advice is be humble. Be willing to admit you make a mistake, and be willing to change your information going forward as the information changes. I interviewed Sarah Lofgren from the University of Minnesota, who was deeply involved in the study out of there. I knew it was an internet study, and she told me she thinks hydroxychloroquine works. And I thought to myself, okay, if the study shows it doesn't work, I'm going to believe this one. So they publish it in the Annals of Internal Medicine. I read it, but I don't spend my usual 2 hours on it because I knew the researcher and I had interviewed her and I trusted her. And I find out after the fact didn't even confirm positive test results. So in other words, they were asking you via the internet if you had a cough or shortness of breath, and they would give you hydroxychloroquine. That's not a study. A study has to be a confirmed diagnosis. So to this date, we still don't have a study that looks at early use of hydroxychloroquine prospectively. We have one out of Henry Ford that looked retrospectively. And again, I say stay on message. I don't want the answer to come from a retrospective trial, but we still don't have the studies we need. So what happens? What happens? Stephen Hahn, who I respect a lot and have interviewed multiple times, head of FDA, says he removes the emergency use authorization. So I asked him on the radio, why'd you do that? Now, I don't think this was a lie, by the way, but I like Dr. Hahn a lot, but his answer is not satisfying, which is he said, we removed it because we already have enough supply in the United States, and we don't need it, and it can be prescribed off-label. But I told Clint last night what the problem with that is, which is try prescribing it off-label when an EUA has been revoked and see if he gets sued or not. I mean, we're physicians. We don't want this liability. So he created a horrible precedent revoking that. It's a political move, not a medical move. And we still don't know if the drug works or not. I gave it, my 96-year-old father's cardiologist gave it to him. My father called me up and he said, I'm not feeling well. He was in Florida in March. I said, what's the matter? He said, I'm short of breath, I have a cough, I have a fever, and I don't think I can get up from the couch. I think I'm on my way out. And I thought, I don't know what I'm going to do. So I called his cardiologist, and again, cardiologist being in the mix is one of my best friends. He said, let's put him on hydroxychloroquine. We did. The next day, he got up, he was fine. Now that's not scientific proof either, but that was dramatic, and a lot of people have those stories. So what it means is we need the science now. And the science, it's a disgrace that it was given to people on ventilators only, a disgrace that so much focus was put on cardiac side effects, which we already knew about. And it's a disgrace that a major study had to be withdrawn. I can't believe, raise your hand if you're shocked with the number of studies that have had to been withdrawn from major journals because of tainted data over the last couple of months.
How about how shocking it is that we have not done the right studies?
We have not. And now we're having trouble getting people to be volunteers. There's some studies ongoing, but the bad press on this is all politics. So when I say don't be afraid of talking about political topics, I'm not talking about weighing in on this. Weigh in on the science. Say, I mean, you don't have to use my words, but my word is the definitive studies haven't been done. They're not done.
Great. What kind of roof do you have on your house?
My son would love it to be a solar-powered paneled roof, but we're not there yet. I think Musk has made I hope it's rainproof. What? I don't understand.
Do you have tiles? Do you have Spanish tiles? Do you have moss? Like Martha Stewart has a roof with moss.
Wow.
See? That's why I asked this question.
I just have shingled. I have shingled roof.
Slate shingles?
Yeah.
Okay, slate shingles. I like to ask that question.
Yeah, but on actually one part of my house in Sag Harbor was supposed to have a tar roof, and I made them make it a copper roof, and I love that. Of course it turns green and rusts. I love copper roofs. Really beautiful.
Yeah, cool.
But I have actually, where I write my books, I have a horse barn on my property from 1837, and I still have the ring where they used to tie the horse up. And then one side of the house is low to the ground, and that's where the caretaker was. And then the horse, it's a one-horse barn. The horse was in the other side, and that's where I work. But it's completely renovated.
You're a workhorse.
So that's another message. Listen, I'm so glad Clint got to this. Here's another message. 1, be true to your words. 2, find your major skill and stick to it. Find your major skill and amplify around it. Maybe it's as a diagnostician. Maybe it's as a communicator. Maybe it's as a writer like me. Maybe it's that you're good at speaking. You know, if you're not good at speaking, that can be worked on. if you have great information and great delivery, but your voice is too tinny or something, that can be worked on. Here's the most important thing I'm going to tell you. Take your time. No matter how, if you think you have 3 minutes, do not rush what you say. I'll give you a great example. A mentor of mine, and I didn't really answer fully the question before of how I got where I am. I started in 2000, for TV-wise, I started in 2008 for a contributor for Fox. And I was on TV all the time because I was available. Don't ever say no to these people. That's all they want to do is fill a spot. I was available and I did my research and I got it right. Then in 2012, the new head of the news division, Michael Clemente, said, he trained Tim Johnson, and he also was Peter Jennings' executive producer. He said, I'm going to send him out in the field. And so then I started doing reporting, and it's totally different. The skill set is different, but it's still the same thing, controlling your words, controlling your expressions, talking slow. You may think, it's 90 seconds, it's 2 minutes, it's 3 minutes, talk slow. And then over the years, I put all of these things together. The same mentor, Michael Clemente, says to me the other night, this is a really rough time in America. And you're talking on Friday night, this was this past Friday night, Clint, you're talking about how they mocked President Trump about this interview. They weren't mocking me. They said I should get an Emmy for keeping a straight face, right? But I said, this is all about respect. This is where we started, right? So he said, when you wind up explaining what you were doing with the president, use the 2 words for your prescription of the night. And I have a prescription all the time I offer to the viewers. He said, use these 2 words, respect and kindness. And this is the key thing for you guys. He said, say them twice. Nobody ever says anything twice on TV. So I said, and for the weekend, I have a prescription for America. Just 2 words, slowly. Respect and kindness. Respect and kindness. And when you say it the second time, people hear it.
All right, we're back with my favorite part of the show, the home repair section of the show with HomeRepair.com CEO, Tony Silva. Tony, we've been talking about the mistakes people make because their house gets damaged in a storm and they think they know something. What's mistake number 5?
Committing fraud.
Oh.
Wait, what? Committing fraud? Yeah, man, committing fraud, insurance fraud. Like those my brothers and sisters that live in New Jersey, you saw all the signs on the billboards on the highway, right, on the parkway, says insurance fraud will put you in jail. After Superstorm Sandy, that was everywhere, right? Insurance fraud was rampant, right? It was a big deal. Look, that will get you put in jail. I'm pretty sure that's a felony. You lose a whole bunch of rights. It's really not something you want to do, right? But committing fraud. So, instead of painting a broad brush, Clint, on like, don't commit fraud, like, what does that actually mean, though? Because sometimes that's a scare tactic, honestly. Sometimes that's a scare tactic for the carriers to intimidate you not to file a claim. I don't want to file a claim. What if that's fraud? What if in some way my contractor, like, I don't want to go to jail, right? So I'm gonna share with the audience today what it means to commit insurance fraud, which is a really big deal. Like, you don't want to do that, right? So look, last week we talked about making money on your insurance claim. And that's really a lead into mistake number 5, right? It is you got 12 grand. They told you there was 30,000 in damage. They'd send you the rest, 18,000. When the repairs were done, you had Larry do the job for 20. You think you're going to make the difference, right? And then the carrier says, or the adjuster says, hey, yeah, send me the invoice that shows me you spent $30,000. And at that moment, you realized, oh my gosh, I took shortcuts. I hired Larry. I bought the cheaper shingle. I didn't get the best, ice and water shield protection. I didn't get everything that I could have gotten. I have a crappy warranty because I was going to make 10 grand. And now they're asking me for a $30,000 invoice so I can make my 10 grand. I literally took the shortcuts to make money, and now they want me to verify it. What are you going to do? Yeah, isn't there a TV show on that, like, what would you do? Well, here's what you would not do. If you want to commit insurance fraud, or if you don't want to commit insurance fraud, do not give them an invoice that says you paid $30,000 because you didn't, right? And look, it's a fishing expedition. They're going to take it down the road of like, oh, you paid 30 grand. Great. Show me the canceled check. Oh, crap. Now what are you going to do? After you've already submitted a fraudulent invoice. Look, that is the biggest way I've actually seen. And I've had customers ask me this, Clint. I had a customer in, oh man, what was that town? It was Whitehall, Pennsylvania. I had a customer literally have the, you know what, to come out on the street and ask me to make him an invoice for $10,000 saying I refinished his wood floors that I never did. I'm like, are you crazy? Like, you want to go to jail? I'm not going to jail. I'm not doing it, bro. Like, that is not going to happen. Look, mistake number 5 is committing insurance fraud. And one of the big ways people do that is by faking invoices so that they can get that recoverable depreciation. Another way, here, this is another crazy story. Like, I've been around a long time, Clint. I've been doing this for 30 years, 17,000 homes. I've seen a lot of stuff, right? Here's another insurance fraud tip you don't want to do. Don't go making damage. Don't go making damage, right? I was called out on a home by a guy. I won't say where he's at, and he says, "Yeah, there's all kinds of hail damage on my house." I'm like, that's funny. I don't see any hail reports in your neighborhood. I see nothing in the last 5 years that says anything happened to your house. Like, what are you talking about, dude? But whatever. So I go out there, and literally, there's like all these strangely shaped little marks, right? Now look, I'm a Hague certified inspector, meaning I've been certified by like the gods in the planet of how to find storm damage, right? I'm that guy, right? And I'm like, dude, what am I gonna, like, what? I don't even know what to tell your insurance adjuster right now because she wants my report. Like, holy crap. Like, this guy literally went up with a hammer and banged his shingles. I can tell because they're all in a perfect arc for as far as he can reach. Like, that is so crazy. You know, like, why did you do that? So what am I'm telling the insurance adjuster, I'm like, hey, I don't want to say nothing about nothing, but like, here's what you need to know. I didn't do this. This is not hail damage. I have no idea who or when or how it happened, but I didn't do it, and I don't know who did, right? Consequently, the homeowner claims that somebody else before me came and offered a quote-unquote free inspection, and they must have done the damage. Like, maybe that's true, maybe that's not. I don't know. But look, anybody who doesn't want to go to jail, whether you're the contractor or the customer, and I promise you, anybody who calls a home repair specialist to your home, we're not showing up with the freaking hammer. You know what I mean? Nobody wants to go to jail. It's either there or it's not. If it's not damaged, we're going to be the first ones to tell you. Don't go. Hey, look, I don't know if Pete did this himself, right? I can say Pete because nobody knows who Pete is or where he lives, but I don't know whether Pete caused this damage himself or not. I think maybe he did, but I'm not saying nothing. Here's the deal. Don't do it. That's a big problem.
Hey, look, if you've got legitimate storm damage, or if you think you have legitimate storm damage, or if a storm has come through with high velocity winds or hail, and you don't know that your house is damaged, but you'd like an inspection for free by the top expert, go to homerepair.com or call Tony Silva and give him the number, Tony.
877-RED-HOUSE.
We'll be back next week with mistake number 6 if your home is damaged in the storm. Thanks, Tony.
Thanks, Clint.
Tune in next week for part 3 of my deep dive interview with Fox News medical correspondent Dr. Marc Siegel. And if you missed part 1, you can find it on the iTunes podcast or on my YouTube channel as a video podcast. All right, everybody, that's going to wrap it up for this episode of The Greatest Show of All Time. If you enjoyed this insight into how to become somebody special in the eyes of your customers and prospects, check out my new book, Celebrity Entrepreneurship. It's available on Amazon.com, $100 and worth 1,000 times the amount that we're asking for it. Go to Amazon.com for Celebrity Entrepreneurship. And if you're interested in taking your career immediately to the next level with the help of my mentorship, go to Clint.com, CLINTTT.com. And I'm looking forward to receiving your application. Until next week, we'll be back here 9:30 p.m. on Sunday night on 77 WABC Radio with the greatest show of all time.
the greatest show of all time.